Good morning. It is Sunday today and welcome to Summer's Way of Life, and we are the 1st of September today, and the weather here is beautiful. There's a breeze blowing. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The sun is coming up. I don't think it's going to be too hot today, and I am in the middle of woodland, park and cornfields. If you look behind me, let me turn it around. First of all, in front of me there's fields, and if you look further down you will see there's cows grazing. I don't know if you can see them, they're behind, just about. You can see them grazing in the distance, and there's lots of pasture. This is grazing pasture. And as I turn this around, the sun is up there coming out, and there's trees everywhere. I'm standing right next to a tree that's fallen. It's the most magnificent thing to look at. If you take time to look at fallen trees, there's kind of such a history there, and even though they're supposedly dead, they're not. They're very much alive. And up above there's just miles of cornfields. And this is the same cornfield I talked to you about in previous videos. Look. I've actually not walked this way before, and I know where it's leading to, but it's my morning walk, and I've gone off the beaten path, although it does look a little bit beaten, so I know I'm not. Oh, look at that. Holly there. I'm just trying to work out what all the trees are. Digressing, but it's so easy to digress when you're in nature, because when you're in an environment like this, you're really communing with your creator within you. It's within you, your connection to source. I keep talking about it, and it's something I can't really explain, and this is a good chance actually to talk about frequency. If this tree will give me a seat here, I can do that just for a little while. So if you could only smell the sweet meadow grass, but communing with nature, so communing with your source connection. And this is where my mind is going all over the place, where I want to talk about frequency, and this is just a kind of introduction to it from my perspective. And I would also say that I know it's a truth. When I say that, try and understand, because it doesn't come from something I've read, even though I've read a lot. Let me use the word when we read, we mustn't assume that is truth. What happens is we read a lot, we learn a lot, we hear a lot from other people. But when we connect, and this is completely mystical meaning there's a universal law, nature's law behind it, which speaks in metaphors and symbolism. I've talked about this in so many of my earlier videos. This is why I say go back and watch them all, because then when you watch them all and you listen to them, you get an idea of how I think. And why do I say this? Why do I feel it's important for those of you watching this to understand understand how I think? It's because it has manifested, I have to be careful with the words, in a way of life that brings about so much peace and harmony within. And as is within, so is without. That's why I say it will be easier when you listen to all of them. And that doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean it's there's a guru or spiritual. No, it's just sharing my way of life. And so let's go back to frequency. So I've learned a lot about frequency from reading extensively as well, but the real understand, and also watching certain channels. There's one particular lady who I've steeped in and out of her work, and she's known as the Oracle Girl, but actually her name is Dr. Jacqueline Dunn or Dr. Jacqueline Hobbs. I can't remember which one. Look it up. I don't think you'll find her on YouTube anymore. I think she's got her own. You can just look up her name and you'll find it, the Oracle Girl. But I've learned a lot about the real understanding of frequency there, which really, a lot of what she says, this is my experience, has just grounded and confirmed what I inwardly already understood, right? So just to keep it simple, frequency is, if you imagine it's a bandwidth in which you are operating in your daily life. And this is really important to understand, because we are beings with antennae when we're operating, when our bodies are in good health. We need our bodies to be in good health for us to be able to operate in integrity and with love and understanding the divine light that we are within us. Not we are. So difficult to explain because it's felt in a very metaphoric way. So if you imagine a radio station, I was explaining this to one of my viewers and friends a little while back. If you imagine a radio station and you've got FM and AM, and imagine AM, assume AM is a very dense frequency and a frequency that's angry people, talking about hurt and war, and not stemming from love and grace and harmony and looking after thy neighbour, all these things you've heard of, but it's a frequency which you're on. So imagine that you're somebody that's watching mainstream media and is in fear all the time with what's happening, but sometimes, maybe when you're walking your dog out in nature, as I'm seeing dog walkers here, you appreciate nature, but you come back, but you're living your everyday life on that bandwidth. You're not connected to your heart in any way. You don't look after yourself. Quite often you'll see, you don't look after yourself. You eat all the wrong foods because it's not even in your consciousness to be aware of that. You're constantly gossiping about others. Hate is within your heart. Hate this, hate that, fight this, fight that. That's not me saying fighting is wrong. It's the internal messaging that you're putting out and that you're feeling to the world. It's a frequency you're attached to, and quite often it's a technological frequency that is enslaving you. I'm just giving you a tiny little 0.01%. And then, so within that frequency, which is a very dark and dense frequency, there are moments where you might be operating and you might do something good, but you're living, your whole persona is in that frequency. And that would be known as a negative frequency. And negative frequencies can be high or low. Like some of the really awful beings that we have on Earth are negative high frequency beings. It's quite hard for them to unravel and come back. Because, when they say a leopard never changes its spots, if you imagine a negative high frequency being, and there's I'm going to talk about that another time. Let's go to a positive frequency. Now, if you're living on a different bandwidth, let's say you're on the FM bandwidth, and that's a positive frequency, where you are living in alignment to nature's principles and nature's law, and you the first thing that's very apparent with those who live on that frequency is that they really pay heed to their own health, because you and everyone are one. We are one. There's a oneness about us, and that understanding comes in so you must pay attention to your own health. You're very aware, and the ability to be aware, I think, is the awareness is attributed to our physical identity self, because inside us, who we are is such a profound form of awareness anyway. So it's trying to positive frequency beings have this awareness about them, and quite often they see things and perceive things in a very different light, which it's almost like a transcendence. It's the ability. I talked about divinity, so difficult to explain. I talked about divinity where I learned from someone I had listened to, and he explained it really well, that divinity is actually the ability to transcend, to go beyond your perceived limitations on this earth. And so and this is what happens especially when we're in commune with Mother Earth and nature. There's so many metaphors. When I say Mother Earth, it could mean the earth you're looking at now and nature, but it could mean the part of us that understands why we are here and who we are, together with the Creator within us. We are going to have to change our entire belief systems completely to really understand who we are, and that time is coming. So when you're operating on a certain frequency, it's a frequency of love. It's a deep love, even though at times, just as you can when you're on a low the other frequency, you can get angry, you can say the wrong things, but you're still operating on that frequency of do no harm and love, understanding what that means. And that is what I'm talking about. And for those of you who want to understand this, it's not something I can explain to you. It's your way of life. That's what this channel is about. So I would say to you, live in a certain way every day and get out into nature, honestly. Get out into nature and walk. You need to keep your body moving. You need to keep the blood flowing, moving, to have that, eat well. I used to be a heavy meat eater, and I still eat meat because it makes me feel healthier and stronger. But I'm finding that naturally it's not about meat or no meat. It's not about that. It's not about an apple or a pear. It's my body is automatically not eating as much, and sometimes I'm fighting. I can feel it in the evenings where there's something else that comes in and says, eat that piece of bread and butter and jam, and I'm saying, well, I actually don't need it. And sometimes I succumb to it, and then I realize we are constantly having to negotiate with our own thoughts that come in from elsewhere, and we have to understand and negotiate where that thought, what source it's coming from. We really are, when we fight from a place of love, and love always triumphs. It's inside us. So I'm finding now that when you understand the purification of the mind and body, we have to purify our bodies, and one of those ways is through what we eat. I only want to eat pure food, and this thing just inside myself, for example, has come since I've started growing my own food 3 or 4 years ago, and understanding the nature of the food that I'm eating. That it's not just about that plum. It's not just about that it's organic and heritage and heirloom, but it's growing in the soil, and the soil that I've nourished, and so that soil is full of my love, because I've nourished that soil along with its own energy and frequency that it lives at. And then of course there's the beautiful taste of the plum itself, and so sweet. And then of course there's myself, who is really appreciating that plum and really eating it with gratitude, not with anger or just stuffing it in my mouth like an unaware. But that won't do any good to you, will it, really, inside you? So it's all these things that need to be considered, and then that itself has an effect on who you are and how you operate outside and with other people. I have found over the last 10 started in 2012 for me, and it was a very bumpy ride. Developed Crohn's disease. I healed that. That healing process was amazing. That was the turning point, and that was when I turned direction and tried to find answers. We all go through it. It's not, we all go through this. But certainly in the last 5 years, there's been, and certainly since 2020, there's been a magical change where, sometimes I have to pinch myself and say, you are not the person that you used to be. What happened? And it's a frequency shift. It doesn't happen straight away. You don't even realize it, where, you stop caring about material things. That's the very simple things. They're there, but you don't identify with it. You just want to be out in nature all the time. I just want to be out in nature. You want to be away from these devices, which I was for a long time. I deleted everything. A lot of us have done that, but we have to explore who we are. And that is so powerful. And it's just that when you understand yourself and you live in that way, that frequency is so strong that it vibrates for miles and miles around you, and even, anywhere in the world, and has a positive effect on others. And you recognize negative high frequency beings and energy very, very, very quickly. And that's nothing woo-woo. It's just a fact. You can recognize it very quickly, and then you move away from it. But you don't hate it. It's very hard not to. You just don't accept that energy around you. You say no. Remember, everything I say is in metaphor and symbolism. No. There was something that the Oracle girl has said where she said, it's like that negative frequency is giving you a gift, and you say, no, thank you. You can take that gift right back. You just, you take that back. And then when you don't accept that negative energy, and for me, one of the most obvious examples for those who've been listening is this Truth, Freedom, Health movement, where I didn't accept being treated in a certain way, and I didn't want that gift of that form of leadership, and I said no, but in form of email. No, I'm not accepting this. No, you can take that back, thank you. I walked away, and there was huge rebuttal. But when you give that, I don't want to digress because I've talked about that in the cult message another time. When you give that gift back, metaphorically, what is that person or that energy or that going to do with the gift? Imagine that gift, they're giving you a gift of this is what the Oracle says, see, some arsenic or some bomb, there's a bomb inside it, and you say, no thanks, just no thanks. That goes back. Now they can either gift that to somebody else, or eventually, when that happens and enough people realise this is wrong, the bomb will blow up in their own hands. See the metaphor there? And they will implode. It's already happening, because that type of energy is not going to survive where we are today. Too many people are there's an unraveling going on, and there's a purification within in the world, on the earth, and within ourselves, because we're part of here, where that way of being and that system is imploding magnificently, and it's going to be quite nasty, but it's happening. But out of that, something beautiful will emerge. So the message in this video is to take the time in your way of life to live a certain way of life in harmony with your sleep, breathing, air, taking time to be silent. That's a state of being. Like after I finish this message, I can walk or I can sit in that state, and it's who we are. What you're doing is who we are anyway. It's just for that moment or that time to dissolve the identity and connect to that state of silence that we are within. It's a metaphor again. I can't remember what I was saying, but that's where we are heading, and that's what you want to do. So look after your body, sleep at the right times, exercise, move, go off into nature, be good to others, do good works, love thy neighbour. Always send love to others, not hate. That is a dense frequency, and you want to live a certain way and a certain bandwidth, then it has to be within your heart. And I understand it now, that there is a connection between the heart and the mind. The heart is very, very important. The heart houses all our feelings and emotions. It's not just there to pump blood. When I think of the heart, I think of it embracing the light within us, and then there's a coherence between the heart and the mind and the brain, that the heart is the most important. Really, it is. And if you have a closed heart, that is sad, and that is something that you need to really work on, to purify everything that's going on within you, your upbringing, your history, your ancestry, to purify. And the only way that can be done is by living in a certain way each day. You don't, you have to live a certain way of life for that to embrace that. Just keep watching all my videos if this resonates with you, and go back to the beginning and start to understand how this works, and you'll see a change. I mean, many people change, like I did when I had a sledgehammer knock when I got Crohn's. And Crohn's, it wasn't just the fact that I had a disease, it was the fact that it forced me to be still and really consider what was going on around me, and what just happened for the last 40 years or 45 years. You don't want to get to that stage. So clear your mind, get off the rat wheel. It's a deliberate attempt to stop us from connecting to who we are, and we're extremely powerful. We are powerful beings, us humans. Have a lovely day and enjoy your Sunday. And if you're in the UK and you've got good weather, get out and take your children with you if you can, in the family. Look, just show you, it's beautiful. Look at the blue skies.